Hello and welcome to the Elle Collective. I'm Kenzie.
And I'm Rachel. With over 350 weddings under our belts, we help you create a wedding filled with big moments, real connection, fabulous decor, and experience-focused celebration that will have guests reliving your event for months to come.
Each episode, you'll hear us share our favorite and not so favorite wedding day experiences from real-life weddings. We chat about trends in the industry and interview experts so that you have the best tools as you plan your once-in-a-lifetime occasion. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are so excited today. I am jumping on with a past client and dear friend of mine, Evie. And I am so excited for this episode. Ev, I feel like you have a really unique perspective on wedding planning because you were heavily considering doing a destination or a small elopement. And then last July, you landed on doing just a small, fun wedding here locally. So tell me a little bit about making that decision and what made you decide.
Yeah, so I was never the girl that knew from when I was 5 years old exactly what my wedding day was going to look like. I basically, once Matthew and I got engaged, I looked at every single different option there was, including courthouse weddings. I just had no idea what I wanted because there's a part of me that's very introverted, but then the other part of me that just loves people so much. So it's I have a unique personality. So I was thinking about an elope or a destination wedding because I thought it would be special to just have my core people there. Mm-hmm. And even though it seems like it would be expensive, it's honestly the cheaper option.
Yeah.
But then I was really sad thinking of not having my other friends and family that I would want there. So when it came down to it, it was more special for me to have a wedding in Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, and it was it wound up being so special and it was intimate. There was less than 100 people at your wedding, but it was so fun to get to see you with all of your favorite people that day. Yeah. Were you glad you did? Any regrets? Would you have done it smaller or?
Yeah, I think it would have been hard to do it smaller because then we really would have gotten into the weeds of how people reacted. People mm-hmm. At my wedding, there were some guests that were not thrilled with the fact that they couldn't invite some of the people that they wanted. Mm-hmm. And we just had to be really strict about that, or not strict, but just we had to set up boundaries about it because then it would have gotten to be a decently large wedding. So if I could go back, I don't have any regrets because I loved my day, but I think I could have also planned a really fun day with my core people at a destination as well.
Yeah. No, I think that absolutely you could have done either way. And I'm glad that you did choose what you did. And it is crazy. When you're adding up that guest list, 50 people, you can add them in 2 seconds, mm-hmm. It escalates really quickly. So you're saying, in a way, you do have to be kind of strict. And it is the hardest part, I think, is deciding who to invite or who not to. Because your final guest list was about 80, right?
Yeah, about 80.
Okay, so when you finally did decide to do a local wedding, was it hard to choose a venue? Let us listen through what that process looked like for you.
Yeah, so the first thing that I did when we started our wedding planning process was we hired you, and that was honestly our number one wedding hack because I had no idea where to start. So since you have so much experience with different venues in this area, you knew right away, you're like, okay, so I think you should tour Camrose Hill, which, like, great. I had never heard of it. I just trusted you. And when we first got there and honestly, like, stepped foot out of the car, I was like, yeah, this is the perfect place. It was woodsy, flowery, just kind of that, like, old vintage feeling, just, like, super magical. And it was the perfect place for Matthew and I.
Yeah. Well, it was, speaking as a friend, I knew that I was like, okay, she is not going to go on a million venue tours. And so I've got like one shot at this. And yeah, like Camrose truly, I think like the best way to describe it is magical. Like you walk through rows and rows of hydrangeas and like this beautiful flower farm. So it was the perfect venue, like all the way through. Anything that like surprised you about planning a wedding that you didn't know before? Like you have probably heard me talk, about weddings, but like what is something that maybe was your favorite part or your least favorite part throughout the entire planning process?
I think that something that surprised me was the amount of details, like small details that matter, that you just, or at least I did not think about. I heard you talk about this on another podcast or another episode. I'm not sure which episode, but you were talking about like the waters at the table. I never would have thought about that. Or like when we were planning my wedding, having a coffee cart or like a coffee area. Never would have thought of that. The chargers at a wedding table. Never would have thought of that. And it's just crazy to me, all of these little things that is so easy to say, oh yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. And how like they all add up. So it was just, it was fun, but also difficult deciding what things were important to me and what things were just important to host an event.
Yeah. Well, right. Your guest experience really is all about the little details. And I like could say it till I'm blue in the face, but like when it comes down to it, it's hard. Like those are the things that easily get overlooked. But like you're saying, like if your guests go through the buffet and then they come to their table and then, oh crap, like I have to go back to the bar to get water. But now I have to wait in line at the bar for everybody else that wants a beer, so it really does. Like, it makes a difference to have water at the table, but that's not like the fun part of wedding planning. Like you want to pick out your flowers and not, water. So, no, could not agree more. Okay. So then we started the process of like booking all of your vendors. And so any vendors that were like your favorites, any like hiccups there? I'm not even fishing for an answer totally, but you.
Well, my favorite was Kenzie Heckmann. No.
Not what I meant.
Yeah, so a good thing about my venue, or a perk that I really liked, was that I was able to pick and choose my vendors, which was really helpful for me because I wanted to choose every single thing based on like, is this a good fit for me? And I wanted my day or Matthew's and my day to reflect
my day.
Yeah. I wanted our day to reflect us as a couple and just make it unique and not just tailored to what the trends are or whatever. So it was a little bit difficult at the beginning because I had no idea where to start. However, when I started telling myself like what is something that would make this the most Evie and Matthew, it became really easy to pick vendors. For example, for food, we were originally looking at, like chicken, what's just like a popular vendor in Minnesota for catering. And then we're like, well, we don't want chicken. What's our favorite food? We love pizza. So then we looked up caterers that do wood fire pizza, and we found like the perfect caterer for us. And we ended up loving the pizza. Something that we did that I don't recommend was we did not try it first. So we just kind of like, it was a Hail Mary decision. And as soon as we took our first bite, we looked at each other and we're like, okay, thank God. Like, this pizza is phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, and it worked like so well for your guest count, you know, like it was a small enough intimate day that like everyone was like, it was fast and efficient. Everybody was well fed. Like these wood fire pizzas were so cute. It wasn't just like cheese and pepperoni, you know, it was like feta cheese with olives and like these like sweet potato. I mean, that one wound up being my favorite. Yeah. It was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another vendor, like choosing our photographer, I had no idea where to start. So I just went on Instagram and typed in MN photography and then was just scrolling looking for different photographers, and I would just save the pictures that I loved. And then I came across this one photographer, Raya Beth, and I loved her photography style. It was just so classic and a little bit vintagey, just so beautiful. And that's how I found our photographer, and I loved her.
That's so crazy. I think that is honestly, and it's not something that I've ever really articulated before, but I do think it is a really interesting way of doing it, is like going on Instagram and finding a bunch of pictures that you like to kind of create your own vision board for, because it's hard to describe like, oh, I really like film photography, or I like, you know, whatever. I like the look of that picture, and that's all I know. It's hard to describe. And so going through and making yourself a little board of these are in common what I like, and then going from there and booking a vendor that suits that. I like that. Something else interesting about your wedding planning process was that you and Matthew are both in the military. And so I remember you walk me through that. I mean, we booked the day, and then I remember getting the call that you were like, just kidding, I might get deployed.
Yeah, so we toured Camrose Hill, and then we sent the check-in to book because there was a deposit, I'm pretty sure, to book that day.
Yeah.
So we sent the check-in, and I was going to get married on August 26th. Well, a few weeks later, I got the news that, oh, just kidding, like, our unit is actually deploying. And I was like, oh, awesome. And we deployed like August 24th. Like, it was within
It would have been bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
It would not have worked. So I called you up and said like, oh, like, change of plans. We have to move this day. And we contacted the vendor or the venue, and they were able, we just looked at a different day, and it ended up working out. But yeah, that was a fun little ride.
No, I remember having to walk through, like, luckily the venue was super flexible with it, and they had other days open, and they were able to move things. For the record, any other way of doing it too, like, there is such thing as like cancellation insurance that you can get. So I know like the venue required for you to have event liability insurance, which covers the day of the wedding. So that's any sort of like your guest breaks an ankle and they decide to sue you for it for whatever crazy reason, or you know what I mean? Like crazy things that happen like that, or if there's any damage to the venue, it covers, usually it's $1 million policy that you take out for 24 hours of your wedding day to cover while you guys are on site. Now, if for situations like that, where you would have had to like cancel your entire wedding or postpone or move it, that there is a separate like cancellation insurance for it. But luckily we didn't need it. It worked out just fine. Okay, so back to the vendor note. Your venue did have a couple of exclusive vendors, meaning that like you had to work with, I think it was bar and DJ, right?
Yes. And floral.
And so, oh, and floral, right. So walk me through like did you like that? I know you mentioned like you love that you got to choose your own caterer, but were there any hiccups there, things that wound up working out really well? How'd that go?
Yeah, for the bar, it honestly makes things easier. In the episode with you and Allie, I loved hearing
Yeah.
like the different pros and cons because all of those were just like spot on. So the fact that I didn't have to deal with finding 2 more vendors, that they were just provided for me, I loved that.
Yeah.
The bar especially, like, great. It didn't really matter to me. They let me choose like what drinks I wanted and basically everything. They just provided the service, so that was great. The DJ, I probably would have preferred to find my own. However, it just was easy and she was great. So it
Yeah.
it ended up working out wonderfully.
Yeah. No, they did do a really good job. Like all of the vendors that they had. And I think that there was reasonings behind it. Like I think with bar, they wanted to maybe control, making sure that people weren't overserved and all of that. And then with the DJ, it was some noise ordinance, reasonings. But no, it was like, it wound up being great vendors. Like I wouldn't say that there was any hiccups on my end either.
I remember being kind of nervous about the DJ and this like noise ordinance thing. I was like, well, I don't really know what to expect. She was talking to me in like decibels and what does that mean? I had no idea.
Yeah.
But I could not tell my music was loud and it was perfect. Like it did not bother me at all, whatever noise level that they were supposed to maintain it at. It was perfect and exactly at the level I would have wanted it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like we needed this super crazy loud rager, but it's not like it was quiet at all. For sure. No. It was great. How about floral? So they had exclusive floral with them, right?
Yeah. So the floral, again, it was just super easy. I didn't have to worry about hiring a different vendor. What I loved about the venue was that it was a total like flower garden. It was so beautiful, filled with beautiful hydrangeas, just so many flowers. And I really liked how she was an expert in floral and she was able to tell me like what she think would look best and what wouldn't look best in her venue and the type of, she was just an expert in her venue and in her like vendor for being floral.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's just it, is that she knows her space. Like she was super helpful in being like, okay, and then for the head table, you're going to need exactly this many candles or like, this is the dimensions of this, or they had this huge hanging install. And so they knew exactly like, how to work with that and what they could and couldn't do. So it kind of eliminated the middleman of being like, okay, we have to go check with the venue to make sure they're okay with us doing this. It was like, nope, this is what looks good. This is the dimensions. Here we go.
Yes.
But that is a pretty unique situation. I feel like most venues don't offer floral, but I do think like all of that to say, it's not like a bad taste in my mouth anytime that venues have exclusive vendors that you have to work with. I think asking why, like making sure you do like obviously check reviews and make sure that it's a good solid vendor. But on all 3 of the exclusive vendors that they had, you had a great experience. So no, I think that was great. Okay. So looking back, what would you say was your favorite part of your wedding day?
Okay. So this is kind of a quick side note. Matthew and I bought this book and it's called 1 Question a Day for Newlyweds. And if you know me at all, I love asking people questions and just like getting to know people that way. And so one of those questions was actually in here. And it was, what is your fondest memory of your wedding day? And for me, it was Matthew, my brothers, his brothers, and his grandma and I. We all were hanging out, and it was after dinner, like while dancing was going, and we were all just sitting down in one of the lounge areas talking, and like it was so much fun for our siblings to be together and get to know each other, and for his grandma to be there, which we love her so much. It was just very special. It was a special moment of the night. And then I also loved dinner because we loved our pizza so much.
Yeah.
And then
there is a great picture of you like stuffing your face with a couple slices.
Oh yeah, like I only had 2 slices of pizza at dinner.
Really? And that was your favorite part? And you only had 2?
Well,
I had more than that.
I love dinner because of like the speeches and stuff too. But yeah, I wasn't like super hungry. I was, having a margarita. It was just nice. It was perfect.
It was a great time. It was perfect.
And then for Matthew, his answer was also having grandma there, and then the time we spent taking pictures before the wedding, like when it was just Matthew and I. That was really special.
I think that your day, like, that was so unique and true to you guys, was just, from the get-go, you didn't want all these people and all of these details and all this stress, and so you really stayed true to, like, this is what's important to us, and this is what makes our day feel like Evie and Matthew. And so nixing the traditions or the trends that didn't make sense to you and just sticking with, this is what we want. Okay, for the photo portion of the day, I know that you've said that Matthew, that was like one of his favorite parts. Any tips for walking through, like, because that can be a really stressful part of the day?
On the first call with my photographer, like after I'd submitted that sheet, what's it called?
Like a questionnaire, yeah. Like a photo shot list.
Yeah, the questionnaire. I remember on the first call, I said, I do not want a bunch of photos that are just like me standing with grandma, me standing with grandma and grandpa, me standing with aunt and uncle, whatever. I didn't want a bunch of structured photos like that because I just know that I'm not gonna do anything with those. It's good to have a good family picture and like a picture with your mom and your dad. But and my photographer listened to that, and she was like, great, let's do it. So we had a bunch of really beautiful candid moments shot, and it felt so good and special to me that my photographer heard that, and she knew exactly what I wanted, and she totally adjusted to that while also sticking true to her way of photographing.
Yeah, I was so impressed when like getting the gallery back by how she did such a good job of getting, like there was tons of candid moments that you wanted, but then there was also great like Christmas card material. You know what I'm saying? Like mom and dad and siblings all lined up next to each other and smiling, but it didn't feel like that on your wedding day. Like I think a really good vendor is able to sit down and listen to what you guys want, how you want your day to feel, but also, somehow coerce you into getting some of those pictures that are timeless that you're going to want someday.
Yeah. I just remember thinking about it and saying, like, I'm not going to hang the picture up of everybody, like, in a straight line. I'm going to hang the picture up of, like, a candid photo of Matthew and I belly laughing with all of our friends. And that is what I wanted.
Yeah. And yeah, that is so what you got. It was beautiful. Anything like ceremony wise, like what was your favorite part? Any pro tips?
I think for ceremony, I loved walking down with my dad. That is something that I know both him and I have always thought about. Like that's one of the one things that since I was a little girl was so excited about walking down the aisle with my dad. And so that was really special. Kind of a funny moment is we got to the end, but where he like hands me off. Well, we didn't rehearse what you do when you hand your daughter off to her husband. And so we got to the end of the aisle and we're just standing there. We stand there for like a second where it's just a little too long. And then he looks around, sits down without giving me a kiss, hug. He just bloop, plops down.
He was like, bye. He was ready to be done. Like, she's yours now, Matthew.
So that was very memorable. And then having our officiant, she was a great friend of mine and now Matthew's from the military, and she is a lawyer, and so she is the one who married us, and that was so special to have Sarah be the person who married us.
Okay, describe your cocktail hour to me, just to keep walking through your day. So it was like out on this big lawn, and you guys did signature drinks, right?
Yeah, so cocktail hour was so much fun. That's when I got to hang out with, or we got to hang out with all of our favorite people. That was such a busy like hour that it kind of just like flew by. I remember there were like a couple times where you were like, all right, Ev, here's your drink. And I was like, oh yeah, I wasn't even thinking about drinking. But we got to hang around the fire with our military friends and then got to say hi to all of our old neighbors. And that was so much fun. For our cocktails, we did our his and hers. And then mine was a margarita because of course. And Matthew is a sucker for a good old fashioned. So that's what we did for his.
Cute. And okay, you did a receiving line, right?
Yes.
Pros, cons, did you hate it, love it? Like, it's a very controversial topic.
Yes. Okay. So after doing it, I am such a huge believer in a receiving line. I was able to say hi to everybody, which I absolutely loved. But like you said in past episodes, it was like a 10-20 second ordeal. I gave everybody a hug, and then I didn't feel guilty about not seeing an old family friend or, you know, a special cousin that I haven't seen in years at the wedding. And I just love being able to say hi to everybody, not feel guilty, and then during dinner, not having to rush to go to every single table, because that would have taken so much time because you would have gotten wrapped up in conversation just inevitably, which it's not a bad thing. It's just a lot of time that you want to be spending with your husband or eating or, you know, doing whatever you wanted, not being stuck in conversation.
So many of these conversations, like in timeline meetings or whatever, and I don't think that there is many people out there that want to stand in a line and hug 200 people in a row. Like, don't get me wrong. It is as painful as it sounds, but also like you're saying, the feeling afterwards of like not feeling any pressure, like just getting to be carefree on your wedding day, talk to who you want to, like, okay, I have checked the box and talked to everyone, and now I can like float throughout.
Yes.
Is such a game changer. And so I do, and even like with your guest count, you know what I mean? Like it sometimes like I've had brides talk me into like, you know, oh, I only have 80 people there. I really want to be able to just go mingle during dinner and I'll hit everybody's table. And while yes, that is like doable, you have that added pressure for longer throughout your day. And so getting that done as soon as you can, and getting to just sit around the campfire during cocktail hour and, you know, enjoy dinner and not feel all of this pressure makes such a big difference, for sure. Okay, next area, talk to me about the end of the night, because this is an area that a lot of things can go wrong. Talk to me about teardown.
honestly, when it came to teardown, I had zero idea that it was happening, which was, I could honestly probably say, was the best part of my day. I remember, like, while you and the little crew, while you guys were doing that, I think I was like signing my marriage or license certificate and just chatting with some old friends. And towards the end of the night, you know, there's some drunk people still left, and it's just, I kind of wanted to leave. Like, I wanted to now spend that quality time with my husband. And so I remember going up to you and being like, okay, Ken's, like, what do you need me to do? Like, Matthew and I want to get out of here soon. Like, what can I do? And you handed me 2 pizza boxes and said, here's your food for the night. Like, everything's taken care of. Goodbye. And I could have, like, melted and cried when you said that, because that is all I wanted to do, was leave and spend this time with Matthew and eat pizza. So that is the best thing I could have possibly heard.
Good. Yeah. Well, I just think it is like, you're so tired at the end. Like, you've been dancing and it's like a high emotional day. It can be a really stressful day. And so, no, like, having a team and like having thought through the end of the night is such a big deal. Like, having a coordinator or a planner who's going to tear it all down for you, or if that's something that the venue does for you, you know, like, just making sure that you are aware of who's doing that, because like, that would have sucked, you know, to get done dancing and be like, oh, now I have to go take all this down.
Yeah.
And then also making sure you have enough vehicles. Like, I remember being like, Matthew, I need your keys. And we filled that truck. And so too many times I've seen when people like don't have enough vehicles at the end, and then I'm left with all this stuff. And so making sure you've got vehicles is always one of my tips too. But all in all, dude, it was a really great day. It was perfect.
Another thing that I remember like wanting to give as a tip for other brides or just like other friends of mine was that I felt like every 5 minutes people were coming up to me saying like, oh, Evie, let's go take a crystal path picture. Oh, Evie, let's go take a middle school girls picture. Oh, Evie, let's go take a cousin's picture. And it just got like so overwhelming, being like constantly grabbed to take pictures. So whether you're a guest, a family member, whatever, one, if you're going to take a picture, make sure everybody else is there. And then go grab the bride.
Yep.
Because I got in these groups and then they're like, oh, we couldn't find great Aunt Sue or whatever. And I was just like, I want to be in a conversation that I was just having, not waiting for this group of people.
I want to be anywhere but here right now.
Yeah, like I was constantly being pulled aside. So if you're a guest, just be mindful of that.
Could not agree more. Okay, and one thing actually I was just thinking of too is like not that it was a destination by any means, but you guys did, like, it was in a small town in Minnesota, and so like you guys had your welcome party there, and then that's where most of your guests stayed, and the venue was super close and stuff, and so it kind of did wind up being this like perfect little destination.
Yeah, and honestly, like probably like 30, 40, 50% of our guests were from out of town. So it was a destination wedding for them. And we decided to have it in that area also because it had a super cute downtown, like Stillwater. There's so many cute shops, so many places to eat. So guests that came in a few days early, they were having a blast and able like to do some Minnesota things while leading up to the wedding. I would like to add one more thing. So, like I was talking about this journal, one other question was who or what made your wedding even better? And I wrote definitely Kenzie. I could not have done that without her. We would have either eloped or had a small destination wedding. It was so special having her there, coordinating everything and being by my side the entire day. And then Matthew also said, agreed, Kenzie and Grandma made the wedding what it was. So we just loved you so much and could not have done it without you.
Well, I feel quite honored that in Matthew's book, I am right up there next to Grandma. That's a very special place of honor for sure. Well, I adore you both. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. That was so helpful to hear about your planning experience and your wedding day.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We would love to keep planning your big day with you, so make sure that you like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content.
Want to weigh in on today's topic or have any questions for us? All of our contact info, sponsors, and links from today's episode are in the show notes below. See you next time.